The wind held no song that night, only the rhythm. Thud, thud, thud. It rolled over the red soil of Nteje like thunder in a cave, echoing against the silence of the forest, through empty huts, across the faces of the sleeping and the dead. Kelechi crouched beneath the altar in the old shrine, barely breathing. His skin slick with sweat, his heart pounding in defiance of the heavy, slow rhythm that seemed to rise from the earth itself. Out there, in the clearing beyond the shrine, shadows swayed and twisted. Feet moved, dozens, hundreds, but no voices accompanied them. No laughter, no clapping, only that cursed beat, slow, insistent, like a heart that refused to die. No one played the drum. It played itself. "If only we never touched it," Kelechi whispered, eyes clenched shut. A shuffling sound passed the doorway. Bare feet, unhurried, unliving. He curled tighter into himself, repeating his grandmother's words in his mind, "is greater than asterisk. When the drums call the dead, child, you must not answer." Asterisk, but they had answered. And now, the dead were dancing. 2 months earlier, the village had been a place of silence, not from fear, but from fatigue. The yam fields were limp with disease. The river ran low and brown. Children coughed through the night. Mothers prayed. The priest offered kola and goat's blood. But the gods did not answer. Then the drummer came. His name was asterisk, asterisk, Udu, asterisk, asterisk. He walked into Nteje with nothing but a gourd, a raffia mat, and a drum slung over his shoulder. His skin was the color of old bronze, and his eyes shimmered with something that made even the elders pause. But it was the asterisk, asterisk drum, asterisk, asterisk, that held them. It was large and round. The hide stretched so tight it seemed to breathe. It shimmered oddly in the sunlight, neither brown nor red, but something between. It was scarred with markings none could read, like ink and burn and blood had all carved their own stories into it. When Udu sat beneath the udala tree and played, the air shifted, and the miracles began. Kelechi saw it himself. A child on the brink of death, bones sharp beneath skin, stood up after one rhythm. A dying cassava sprouted leaves within hours. Chickens laid eggs in the middle of the day. A blind woman cried out in joy, seeing color again. The village erupted in joy. Laughter returned. Songs were sung again by night. "Udu is a blessing," they said. "He carries the music of life." Kelechi was quiet. He watched, and he listened, especially at night. Kelechi had always been a quiet child. Where others ran, he watched. Where others shouted, he whispered. He learned early to listen to the wind, to the voices of elders, to the things people said when they thought no one heard. And in the days after Udu's arrival, Kelechi began to hear things no one else did. At night, long after Udu had rolled up his mat and ended his joyful performances, faint rhythms still echoed far off, beyond the edge of the farms, past the last huts, from the burial grounds. At first, he thought he imagined it, but then came the other signs. Goats began to die, not from sickness, but from terror. They'd be found in the morning, mouths open in silent screams, hooves bent in unnatural directions. A newborn refused to cry. A mother screamed when her child's shadow didn't match her movements. And then Obi vanished. She had lived alone, just near the edge of the forest. The search found no struggle, no blood, only her sandals neatly placed by the door, and a bowl of cold soup still steaming. Udu mourned with the rest. He wept beautiful tears. But as he helped shovel soil over the empty grave, Kelechi saw the way his fingers danced silently on the rim of his drum. He never let it go. Not once. The harvest festival came early that year. With Udu among them, the yams had grown larger. The river had risen again. Even the palm wine had begun to taste sweeter. Udu insisted on leading the opening ceremony. As the sun set, he sat in the center of the village square, drum in front of him, firelight flickering across his face. He didn't speak. He simply began to play. The rhythm was impossible. Fast, then slow, deep, then sharp. It pulled at the bones. Even Kelechi felt his feet twitching. Villagers danced. Old women who hadn't stood without a stick in years. Children who had just learned to walk. The rhythm times demanded, times movement. And the people obeyed. But something was wrong. Kelechi stood at the edge of the celebration, frozen, because the shadows cast by firelight and swaying bodies were asterisk, asterisk, wrong, asterisk, asterisk. They danced in the asterisk, asterisk opposite direction, asterisk, asterisk. They twitched and jerked even when their owners were still. Some of them had no heads. Then a girl just 4 or 5 vanished mid-spin. Gone. No scream, no trace. Kelechi cried out, but the music drowned him out. The next morning, the food rotted in the sundae. The milk turned to blood. A goat birthed a stillborn kid with eyes that were human. And still, Udu smiled. It is a passing shadow, he said. I will play again tonight to cleanse the air. No one objected. That night, Kelechi broke into the shrine. It was forbidden, a place reserved for the oldest bloodlines, for priest-kings long buried and never spoken of. But he had to know. He brought a lantern and a knife. The floorboards groaned as he stepped inside. The walls were lined with carvings, stories of old, gods, wars, curses, and drums. One image stopped him. A man playing a large drum before a field of corpses, eyes glowing. Around his feet, the dead rose like dancers. Above the carving, a single word was etched. Etsuma, to reverse, to undo. He knelt by the altar. The lantern flickered. Under the base, he found something buried, wrapped in cloth. Human, skin. He dropped it in horror. There were symbols burned into it, the same spirals on Udu's wrists, the same carvings on the drum. It wasn't goat hide stretched across the drum. It was human. Kelechi ran. To the only person who might understand, Maazi Nneka was so old that some said she was already half spirit. Her eyes had turned white with age, but she saw things others could not. She listened to his breathless tale, then said, I feared it when the river turned quiet. She opened a box of bones and ash. From within, she pulled a scrap of brittle parchment. Long ago, a priest learned to speak with the dead. He bound his soul to a drum made of a warrior's flesh. He forced the dead to dance, to work, to till the earth. He became powerful, but the gods silenced him, buried him beneath the altar. She touched his face. That priest made a promise. His drum would hunger forever, and when it found another willing heart, it would beat again. Kelechi's throat dried. Udu? She nodded. Or the drum. They are one now. That night, Udu came to him. You've seen too much, he said gently. Or maybe just enough. He placed a leather-bound book in Kelechi's hands. It smelled of blood and dust. Stories, Udu said. All unfinished. Waiting for an ending. Kelechi opened it. Page after page, names crossed out. Words ending mid-sentence. Between 2 pages lay a braid of hair. Blue ribbon. Asterisk, asterisk, idioma. Asterisk, asterisk. She had vanished weeks ago. Kelechi looked up. Udu's eyes shimmered like water over a grave. He went to the river that night. He didn't know the ritual, only that he needed to return something. He dropped the braid into the water. The river, asterisk, asterisk, stopped. Asterisk, asterisk, flowing, then reversed. It whispered a name. Ghostly footprints rose from the banks and trailed inland toward the village. He followed them to the graves. He lit lanterns, their flames bent inward. In the dirt, A pair of pale eyes opened. The bracelet Udu had once tied to his wrist. For protection, he'd said, burned hot. It pulled toward the shrine. Inside, beneath the altar, Kelechi found it. A drumstick. Old. Carved. Cracked. It thrummed in his hand like a living thing. And in that moment, he knew Udu had marked him. Not to kill, but to replace him. The drumstick felt wrong in Kelechi's hand. Not because it was heavy, it was feather light, but because it seemed to know him. It pulsed against his palm like a living thing, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The bracelet tightened. Udu's gift, once woven thread and bone charm, now hissed against his wrist like rope dragged through fire. It didn't burn his skin, not yet, but he could feel it growing warmer with every step he took toward the shrine. It pulled like a leash, like it had decided he belonged to the drum now. Above, the moon had turned yellow and full, hanging low like an overripe fruit ready to fall. He passed the graves again. Lanterns guttered, flames dimming. The footprints were gone, but the earth beneath the mounds had shifted. They were no longer resting. He needed help, but help would come with a price. Maazi Nneka waited by the grave tree, where the roots grew thick and tangled, a place where no drums had yet dared to beat. She was not alone. 3 women in white stood with her, older than memory, wrapped in ash and thread, their eyes blind but glowing with ancestral fire. They were the spirit mothers, guardians of the old rites, and they had not walked openly in generations. They said nothing at first, only stared at Kelechi, as if measuring whether he had the strength to be broken. Then one of them stepped forward and placed her hand over his heart. "You are marked," she said, "but not yet devoured." Maazi Nneka held out a gourd filled with black powder. "Drink." He did. It tasted of iron and fire. It choked his throat, seized his gut. The earth spun. He fell. He dreamed. A village with no name. A man playing a drum of wet skin before a line of kneeling corpses. A woman, his mother, holding his baby self in her arms, weeping before the same man, pleading, "Please, spare him." "Every life has a price," the man said. And Udu, young, unchanged, had smiled and placed his hand over Kelechi's forehead. "I'll collect later." He woke gasping. The spirit mothers were gone. Only Maazi Nneka remained. "You were bought," she said. "Your mother gave her soul to buy yours. Udu claimed it, and now he comes for you. I don't want to be him." "Then you must unmake the drum. Play the rhythm in reverse, not just backward, but against its will. But it will demand blood. Not just any, yours." That evening, the fog came. It rolled across the fields and wrapped the village in silence. No birds, no insects. Even the dogs had vanished. From the edge of the mist, they began to appear. The dead, not rotting, not corpses, but hollow echoes, men and women and children, walking slowly, expressionless, moving toward the shrine. Their eyes were dim lanterns. Their hands twitched to an unheard rhythm. Kelechi stood in the shrine doorway, the carved drumstick in hand. Behind him, the drum waited. Still, too still. Then came Udu, out of the fog, wearing a robe of deep indigo, his face calm. In his hand, no drum, only silence. "You felt it now," he said. "The weight of story, the pull of rhythm. You were always meant to inherit it." "I don't want to." "That doesn't matter." The fog curled around them. The dead watched, unmoving. "I offer you balance," Udu said. "One life freely given. Yours, and the rest will rest. You end the story, and I pass on. No more drums, no more curse." Kelechi's voice was quiet. "Only if I get to play the final song." Inside the shrine, everything was wrong. The walls sweated. The altar bled. The drum pulsed like a womb, like a second heart that had outlived its host. Kelechi sat before it, the drumstick in one hand, the bracelet now glowing red-hot on his wrist. The skin of the drum seemed to breathe, expanding and shrinking with his own breath. He closed his eyes, and he began to play, backwards, a rhythm not of life, but of unmaking. He played the laughter backward into silence. He reversed the cries of birth into stillness. The festival joy of weeks ago became a dirge, a lament, a scream held in reverse. Outside, the fog stopped moving. The dead paused. Faces flickered, human, afraid. Then the drum changed. Its skin-shifted names began to rise across it, as if written in blood and fire. Adaobi, Ijeoma, Ikena, Chiamaka, Mother. The last name burned brightest. Kelechi faltered, and the drum responded, speeding up, playing him now. He could feel his own heartbeat slowing to match its throb. He saw her, his mother, stepping out of the fog, tears in her eyes. "I gave you life," she whispered, "but you must choose how to spend it." He gripped the drumstick tighter. His bracelet tightened like a snake. The drum demanded his heart. But Kelechi did not let go. He changed the rhythm. He began to speak to the drum, not through sound, but through memory. He played the kindness of Ijeoma, who once shared half her porridge. He played the laughter of the twins, who carved birds from palm bark. He played his mother's lullabies, her voice cracked from coughing, but soft as wind. He told the drum a new story, one where joy was not bought with suffering, where blessings were not debts. And when Udu burst into the shrine, furious, and struck the drum to silence him, Kelechi wove that strike into the rhythm, twisted it, reversed it, unmade it. The drum screamed. Its hide split. From within, not blood but ashes. The bracelet snapped from his wrist, turning to dust. The names on the drum flared, then vanished. Udu stumbled backward, his hands burning, his face melting from priest to corpse to smoke. "Balance!" he screamed. But the shrine opened beneath him. The altar swallowed him whole, just as it had swallowed the priest long ago, and the drum collapsed inward, hollow. At last, the first light of dawn crept across the sky, like a timid visitor unsure it was welcome. For the first time in weeks, the wind carried no rhythm, no beats, no echoes, only birdsong. Kelechi stepped out of the shrine slowly, his body aching, his fingers stiff from holding the carved drumstick. It was cracked now, splintered at the tip. It had served its purpose. He stood on the shrine's worn steps and looked out across the village, and there they waited. The dead, or what remained of them. They stood motionless in the morning mist, their eyes open and clear, no longer hollow, no longer bound by rhythm or fog. The wind moved through them, and they blinked. One by one, they began to breathe. Adaobi gasped first, falling to her knees, clutching her chest. She sobbed, touched the dirt, and wept like a baby. The little girl with the blue ribbon cried out, arms reaching. Someone, her uncle, maybe ran forward and scooped her up. Then others collapsed, stumbled, screamed not in horror, but in overwhelming, bone-shaking relief. Kelechi saw Ijeoma. She was standing beside the grave tree, her blue ribbon torn, her skin pale but her eyes full of life. She met his gaze, nodded once, and vanished into the crowd. Not all returned. Some graves remained quiet. The earth stayed still, but enough had come back, enough for the village to begin again. They burned the remains of the drum at the river. It did not burn easily. At first, it resisted the hide curling, but not blackening. The wood popping, but not splitting. It was only when Kelechi placed his blood-stained drumstick into the fire beside it that the drum finally cracked apart. A great breath of air left it, like a sigh from something ancient and tired. Then it fell to ash. The villagers said nothing for a long time. Then the elders, those who had once called Kelechi foolish, knelt. They touched their foreheads to the ground. "Forgive us," they whispered. Kelechi didn't speak. He didn't need to. Maazi Nneka visited him that evening, walking barefoot with a gourd of cool water and a bowl of pepper soup. She sat beside him, watching the fireflies. "You rewrote the story," she said. "Not many can do that." He turned the broken pieces of the bracelet in his palm, a thread of bone, ash, and charm, now shattered. "I didn't rewrite it," he said. "I just refused to finish the one he wanted." She smiled. "That's the same thing." A pause. "Will it come back?" he asked. "The drum? The rhythm? Maybe. Not in your time. But cursed stories never end. They sleep, waiting for someone else to ask the wrong question." He didn't respond. She reached over and touched his wrist. "You carry the rhythm now," she said, "but not its hunger, just its memory." In the days that followed, the village tried to return to life. The fields were sick again, as if the earth was cleansing itself. The river ran clear, but slower. Children played, but never after dark. Udu's hut stood empty. The villagers burned it, salted the soil, and built a small shrine where it had once stood, not to honor him, but to remember the cost. Kelechi became both feared and revered. People whispered around him. Some called him the boy who unwound the drum, others the death teller. Some left food at his doorstep, some refused to look him in the eye. He ignored them all, but at night, when he couldn't sleep, he walked to the riverbank with a lantern and listened. Not for music, for silence. It was more precious than anything now. One night, the river reflected the moon perfectly. No ripples, no sound. He saw her again. His mother. Not a ghost, not a dream. Just a moment of memory, clear, sharp, vivid. She stood beside him, wrapping her shawl tighter, humming that same old lullaby. She looked down at the broken drumstick in his hand. "You found your own rhythm," she said. He nodded. "I wish I could have saved you." "You did," she replied. "You gave me peace. You gave everyone peace." She leaned in and kissed his cheek. Then she was gone, and the river moved forward again. If only Kelechi returned the broken pieces of the drum to the shrine. Not to hide them, not to bury them, but to teach. He placed them on a woven mat beneath the old altar, beside a clay bowl filled with charcoal and salt. He painted one word on the wall behind it in ash: "Beware." He didn't stay long. The past needed a place to rest. And so did he. As he walked back through the village, he saw life blooming slowly. Yams planted, songs sung softly. No drums. Not yet. That night, he stood on the roof of his hut and whispered to the moon, "If only we had questioned the blessings that come too quickly." And the moon, round and silent, seemed to nod in reply.